Hi everyone, my name is Josh. Thanks for stopping by my channel. And today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Backstage Tag. Sorry, I do not know who created this tag, but I was tagged by, I believe, Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. Thanks for tagging me. I will tag the creator below once I find them, and I will make sure I tag Gunpowder Fiction and Plot as well. When it comes to tags, I don't do a lot because I get stressed out when it comes to doing tags, and I need to be in a certain mood, and it's hard to get to that. I get really anxious about what I want to say, and for some reason, like, it's worse when I'm trying to review a book. But people like Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, they do a lot of tags, and they do it so well because they do tags like this, which isn't just even talking about books. It's about talking about things that related to reading, to books, and to booktube in general, and they have such great conversations. That's what I'm going to strive for today, and hopefully I manage to achieve that, but consider checking them out. Without further ado, I guess let's just get started. Okay, question number one. What camera do you use for your videos? And that's going to be my Pixel 3 XL, and I'm going to tell you, I have a love-hate relationship here. There's a lot of things I have to tell you about my phone, but the first thing I'll say is it's not great. I don't love the quality. It doesn't do a consistent frames per second. It's like the video that it captures per second fluctuates, and that makes it really difficult to edit, which I'll get to when I get to that question, but it makes it very hard. And also the quality of my phone, it's fine, but it's not as good as a professional phone, like a professional camera, I mean. And even some phones better than mine. I use the front camera on the phone. I've tried using the rear camera, which can go up to 4K. But honestly, the quality is hard to differentiate despite being a better camera. And also, it's hard as hell to talk to the camera and to film myself here when I can't see the bounds of my little camera. So I use the front camera on my Pixel 3 XL. Next up, number two, speaking of filming and being your own director. Do you have a favorite director? And yes, I do. It's going to be Mike Flanagan. He's created a lot of movies that are horror related and also TV shows at this point, actually. I think The Haunting, which is to say The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor. That TV show, The Haunting of Hill House particularly, I think, is the best horror TV show I've ever seen. I will stand by that till I die. And it's just so fucking good. He does such an amazing job of bringing depth to these movies and making them work really well. Other movies that work really well, Hush, Gerald's Game, which was amazing, was able to make that book work because so much of it is internalized dialogue. And what he did there was he turned the internalized dialogue into sort of a projection of talking to your literal self in front of you, rather than having like an internal dialogue where you just hear voices in your head. Like it's you have to watch it to get it. You may have seen it if you like horror. If you don't, you probably won't watch it anyways, but it's that right there, I think, is just an epitome of what he does it, how he does it so well. Now, there's another creator I want to mention here, and that's going to be Ari Aster, and I've only seen 2 of his movies, and he's still creating new ones, but honestly, I think he is definitely giving Mike Flanagan a run for his money, because so far his directing is probably, honestly, the best directing I've seen for horror movies. Hereditary was phenomenal. It's my favorite, one of my favorite, if not my favorite horror movie of all time, and it's so good at focusing on family, on like that intimate feeling. And there's also Midsummer, which I didn't like as much, but it's still really good, and the directing really is the best part. The visuals, the use of lighting, oh, it's so unnerving and it's so good. And I think given time, if I see enough of them, I'll eventually say he's my favorite. And honestly, right now, it's like he's more consistent than Mike Flanagan. So anyways, Ari Aster, Mike Flanagan. If you like horror, check them out for sure. But if you like horror, I'll be surprised if you haven't already. What microphone do you use and what program do you use to edit your videos? And honestly, first thing, it's like a weird pairing of microphone and video editor. It's like 2 separate concepts. But anyways, we're here. So, okay, my camera ran out of space. So I'll give you a little insight into my backstage experience. But where were we? I use a shot mic, pew pew. It's like a long skinny mic, and it like just sits on top of the phone. And honestly, I really like this mic because the sound is really good. It's actually very clear, consistent, and loud, and doesn't pick up too much bad stuff. Like I think it might pick up my chair occasionally, which I know my chair sucks. Picks up upstairs if they're walking or if they're talking. You might hear them a little bit. But generally, it does what it's supposed to do, which I really like. The one downside to this mic is that when I'm outside in the wind, it sucks. I can't pick up anything that I'm saying because the wind just fucks it up. But I used to have one of those little tiny ones that were like attached to you, like pinned to you, and like connects to it. The problem with that is I'm very restless, so I have to like rub up against it. Sometimes I have a book I was holding in front of it. It's like I muffle my entire voice. But I do like sometimes filming outside, which means I probably should get one for filming outside. I had one. I think I lost it. I don't know. it's a tangent. The point is they use a shop mic, pew pew, and it works pretty well. I think if you like sit down situation, you should consider it. It's cheap, like it's about the same price as the other one, maybe a bit more expensive, but still really good mic, honestly. And oh yeah, the video thing that I use Premiere Pro, and to go back to use the phone that I use, I said the frames per second were not consistent, and that's a problem because for some reason the most advanced video editor out there, Premiere Pro, is incapable of handling a variable frames per second, which means whenever I import a video from my phone into Premiere Pro, the audio and the video gets consecutively offset with time. It was such a hard thing to learn to have to figure out why the fuck my audio kept being off sync. I just assumed that as a newbie I kept messing up when I was editing and like moving my sound around when I shouldn't. I kept trying to fix it, and I finally figured out it was the frames per second, which no one tells you that. These little things are so annoying. And then because of that, I have to process all of my videos through another piece of software to make it into a constant frames per second. And I recognize that I could just try a different editor that probably works with multiple frames per second, but sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. But it's one of those things where when you learn how to use a software, you don't want to learn a new one. So I already learned how to use Premiere Pro fairly effectively, so now I'm kind of hooked. And so now I'm just in the process of having to process my video every time. It's a little bit tedious, obviously, but it also kind of reduces the quality overall. Like you can only, that kind of processing will always reduce quality, no matter how well you try and fine tune it. It's one of the things I have to do. Like if you ever watch my videos and you notice how somehow my 1080p video has great clip art, I have a cover here and like the edges are perfectly crisp, but me, I always come across somewhat like blurry. Not necessarily blurry, but like it's not, my edges aren't like crisp, because for some reason my 1080p phone can't seem to manage that, and the whole processing of everything doesn't seem to capture the crispness of a 1080p picture for whatever reason. Do you remember the first record that you bought or received? No, because I don't own records. I was born in 1990, not the 1950s. I'm sorry, that was a joke. I don't care if you own records. They're actually pretty cool. I understand why you want to buy them. I never have. Now CDs, still no. I do remember one of the first CDs I ever bought, like consciously as an adult, was the David Bowie collection, because I like after he died I sort of got exposed to his work and I really started to like his work. It was one of those situations where I wasn't a fan until he died, and then his death exposed me to his work and I got really invested in it. I love the genderqueerness of it all and just the music in general. Unfortunately, I did learn something recently, which I should have known this already, but apparently when he was younger he got involved or somehow with like a 15-year-old, which really, it's always disappointing when you there's someone you consider sort of like a hero in some ways, turns out to be kind of a shitty person. And I'm going on a rabbit hole here, but yeah, so that was unfortunate, I think, to learn. So how do you prepare your videos? Talking points, a detailed script, or just talking? And it's generally just talking. There are a few reviews that I will use a detailed script. One thing I really wish I would do is create an outline. People do that, and that's so fucking smart, because you just talk and you use the outline to guide you. Like, that is so smart, instead of just rambling like I do. But right now I haven't gotten to the pattern of doing that. Now you see me look at my phone, that's because when I do a tag, I do generally think about the answers. I already mentioned how I get anxious when I'm doing my tag, so it helps to think about it ahead of time, unless of course the question is like time sensitive, in which case I'll just skip it and think about it in the moment. But generally I like to think about it ahead of time, make sure I'm ready instead of just fixating, because there's something about being recorded while I'm thinking that is just very it makes me freeze up. But generally I just talk. When it comes to reviews in general, if I'm doing an ARC review, I need to write a review anyways, so sometimes, or at least a couple times, I have written the review and then use that as the guide for this. But as I do more, I start to realize that just in general, when I talk about a book more, whether it be vocally or textually, that I get a better argument for it. Like sometimes my best reviews for ARCs are going to be like in the wrap-up, because I've talked about it like in a vlog or in a written review and a video review, and by the time I get to the final one, I have my talking points just like pinpointed very well. It's like when I like do a presentation for my work research, and I have to like practice it over and over again. Eventually you get really good at it and it just comes natural. So maybe it would be better if I prepared a couple times, at least a little bit, is the takeaway here. TV shows have become a thing of our time. Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, blah blah blah. Do you have any favorite TV shows? Is the point of the question. And yes, I do. Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Golden Girls are the top two, obviously, for good reason. And the third one is harder to say. I have written down Westworld, because Westworld, its first season was phenomenal. It was perfection. But it definitely went downhill season 2 and season 3. but it does have even when it was going downhill, it has these episodes where it can reach such extreme highs that if it can bring itself back, I can still see it maintaining a favorite of all time if it can do that in the later seasons. I have hope, but who knows, maybe it'll just turn to Game of Thrones and just be shitty for the rest of its time. Other than that, I do love Breaking Bad. That seems like just a generic answer, but it is really good. But I'm not supposed to give more than 3, so Golden Girls, Buffy, and for now it's going to be Westworld. What kind of booktube videos do you prefer to watch and why? And honestly, I've watched a little bit of everything. I've actually ranked everything here to give you an idea of what I prefer. And it's going to be list, vlogs, tags, wrap-ups, hauls, reviews. I'm one of those people who have a hard time getting interested in a review if I'm not at least mildly familiar with the work. If I just go into a review blind without any context of the book, it's hard for me to be interested enough to stay focused. Even if I push play, it's just like my attention span is very short. So it helps that if I'm at least heard of a book before I hear a review. Generally, I'll probably just skip it. I mean, I do try to support people, but oftentimes I just won't pay much attention to it. And if I do pay attention to it, it's just because I'm trying to be supportive to the creator. But for lists, or one of my favorite things is you get recommendations with mild feedback, but you don't have to worry about hearing a full review. It's basically me being lazy. Vlogs I like specifically for creators I like are favorites of mine. But generally speaking, it has to be a specific type of creators, not all creators. And then tags and wrap-ups, I like both of those. But like I said, I feel like tags sometimes are difficult to do well, and I consider myself as someone who doesn't do them very well, at least not easily. So generally speaking, I feel like tags can get repetitive, but I think there also are some good tags that really do a good job of prying into the creator and getting them to really think outside the box. And those kind of tags are very rewatchable, and not even just tags like this, which facilitate conversation, but there are other tags like tags that relate to books, like taste and whatnot, that give the reader the ability to break that mold if they really push themselves. I like wrap-ups. Generally, I'll watch wrap-ups. Actually, I don't love wrap-ups, to be honest, but I do watch them just because I try to watch all the videos a creator puts out, unless it's really niche and something I just have no interest in. And sometimes wrap-ups can actually pull me in sometimes, but it's just there are so many there that I get overwhelmed by all these reviews. That can be hard for me to really grasp. Usually, it's I'm listening and trying to find ones that I already know about, which is why I find lists more preferable to wrap-ups, because they're a tinier snippet. It's easier to maintain my attention, which I don't know if it's just a thing about the way my mind works, or if it's just me being lazy. Finally, watching TV was probably a part of all of our childhoods. It's true. These years, it has become less popular. What kind of media do you consume? Obviously YouTube, we've already talked about that. Television still, but even then it's I stream. I hate commercials. I despise them with a passion. I remember at some point when I got a 1080p TV, basically I get a flat screen, I stopped wanting to watch a regular analog television just because it's if I'm going to watch something, I'm not going to watch it in 480p, which with YouTube I've actually gotten pretty used to watching 480 content, but there was a phase there where I don't want that. But I'm going off on tangents. I also listen to podcasts, a lot of podcasts. Honestly, I did some comparisons between 2019 and 2020, and the amount of podcasts I listened to. I listened to 17 less days worth of podcasts in 2020 than I did in 2019, and that's part of the reason I managed to read almost 200 books, over 200 books. I don't remember anymore. I think it was almost 200. But the point is, I read a lot, and part of that was because I listened to less podcasts. Audiobooks became a high priority, but I listened to a lot of podcasts. This year, I'm reading less, obviously. May not be obvious to you, but I'm reading less, and I'm listening to more podcasts. The type of podcasts I listen to are going to be politics, news, which kind of go hand in hand, and then television or media related. I listen to a lot of podcasts that will recap or review movies or TV shows. I love TV recap episodes. I listen to 4 or 5 different Westworld podcasts when the show comes out. There's episodic breakdown of every episode. And I used to love the Game of Thrones as well. And if you ever tried it, if you watch things like Westworld, those kind of really in-depth mindfuckery shows are perfect for podcasting because there is so much conversation to be had. And it's just so much fun. It really is. Other than that, obviously I read. Audiobooks primarily, a little bit. Physically a little bit with my Kindle. And some movies, but that's the least thing I do. And that's everything. This kind of a long tag, and hopefully it was you found something substantive from what I said. I'm probably supposed to tag someone, but I'm not in the mood, so why don't you just, if you haven't done this tag, feel free to do it. You consider yourself tagged, and thanks so much for watching, especially to the end. If you have watched the end, why don't you give me some type of emoji that relates to filming or film equipment, cameras, TVs, whatever, I don't care. Thanks so much for watching. and always have a great day. Bye, y'all.